He took the idea of 1,000 years empire from John's revelation. However, Hitler was not alone in his dream of establishing a Germanic empire with re-emerging god-humans from Atlantis. The Tula Society of the Germanic Order and the Armenian Order of the 19th century, which met in the Four Seasons Hotel in Munich, had the same dreams with one difference. They saw the Freemason lodges and the Illuminati as the supreme evil.
Not many people know that the Tula Society was a cover organization of the Germanic Order. This Germanic Order was created around 1912, and the Tula Society appeared later. Theodor Fritsch was the driving force behind the Germanic Order, and he, of course, was the mastermind of German anti-Semitism. At the beginning of this century, he had already conceived that the Jews and the organization which represented the Jews, which embodied Jewish culture, namely Freemasonry, in his opinion had to be fought against, preferably by an organization of the same caliber, indeed with a secret lodge. That is why the many anti-Semitic associations of the time, as well as the readers of his magazine Hammer, became united in the Reichshammer Union in 1912. The Germanic Order was created as a secret sister organization. Their principles were identical to those of Freemasonry, but it fought against its opponent with Germanic ideas. Finally, a work of conspiratory nature emerged. The Germanic Order would only take on trustworthy people of Germanic nature. To that effect, very detailed prescriptions were applied in order to achieve the desired result. People had to be preferably blonde and blue-eyed. They had to have a secure income. They had to have status and, of course, have internalized the appropriate ideas. The Germanic Order did not develop very well in the First World War because many of its members were involved in the war and membership dwindled. The first disagreements occurred, and in 1916 the Germanic Order was split. One branch of the Germanic Order renamed itself and became the Germanic Order Pilgrim to the Holy Grail, out of which the Tula Society emerged later. Rudolf von Sebottendorf contacted the Grand Master of the Order, Hermann Pohl, and both decided that Sebottendorf would build up the Bavarian provincial branch of the Germanic Order. Indeed, he did so. He recruited members, and in August 1918, the great inauguration took place. The Germanic Order was initiated in the headquarters, that is, in the Four Seasons Hotel in Munich, with an inaugural lodge. Shortly after this came the well-known events of the end of the War Revolution. From then on, we can speak of the Tula Society. The Germanic Order then renamed itself with the cover title Tula Society in order not to divulge the conspiratory secret alliance and to hide amongst other popular organizations, thus having a greater range of action.
Adolf Schicklgruber, Hitler, the Enlightened, wants to release the world from Satan. As it happened, shortly after the First World War, young officers of the German army were introduced to an esoteric lodge called Tula. This lodge uncovered the secret world conspiracy of the Illuminati. These officers were extremely excited when they discovered that the war they had just lost had already been predicted as a conspiracy during the 19th century in the secret scripts of the wise men of Zion. The secret scripts of the wise men of Zion, the Illuminati, quoted, "We are the one force which finances all parties and wars until mankind gets weary of wars. We are the one force which brings power to the powerful, whether it be kingdom, aristocracy, communism, or capitalism. And because they are indebted to us and they are tired of fighting, we will introduce a new world order to control all finances and national debts. Mankind will have to rewrite history when it examines who financed the Napoleonic Wars, Lenin's Communist Revolution, and all political parties of the First World War. Towards the end of the 18th century in Europe, especially in Germany, a new movement was founded which was interested in deeply spiritual matters. The origin of mankind and all the secrets of Atlantis were of particular interest. These spiritual groups were inspired mediumistically by invisible masters who taught European scientists visiting India and Tibet. The foundations for these secret esoteric teachings were the secret writings of Petrova Blavatsky. At the beginning of the 19th century, various esoteric groups, such as the anthroposophists of Rudolf Steiner, were directly issued from these teachings. They mentioned the coming of a new age, which would be preceded by a great battle between good and evil. The teachings by the invisible masters of Shambhala were mixed by the esoteric followers of the time with other religions such as Hinduism, Buddhism, and John's secret Christian prophecies. Many newly founded occult sects discovered that there were esoteric lodges before them, such as the Freemasons, the Rosicrucians, and the Illuminati, who were pulling the strings of world politics. The new occultists of the turn of the century were waiting for the new golden age to arrive, and like various sects today, believed themselves to be the chosen ones. They would inherit eternal life and the 1,000 years empire after the apocalypse and the return of Christ. At a time of turmoil, many groups wished for one enlightened leader.
Shortly before his death in 1923, Dietrich Eckart is supposed to have said, "Follow Hitler, Hitler will dance. I have composed the music to his dance. I have given him the opportunity to get in touch with them. Do not accuse me. I will have had more influence on history than anybody else." To get in touch with them, what did he mean? In essence, and theoretically, it meant that Dietrich Eckart gave Hitler the possibility to contact the powers of Agati. He convinced him that he had to complete the work of Agati. It meant the demise of Shambhala represented in the international Freemasonry.
In 1912, von Symbottendorf founded the Germanic Order in Bad Aibling, out of which emerged various occult ideas, which would later trigger the Great Tragedy. They saw in the old Freemason and capitalistic lodges the personification of the evil enemy. In 1918, after the German defeat of the First World War, this Germanic order in Munich merged with many other groups into the Tula Society. They also invited recently discharged officers to attend their meetings. At the meetings, they discovered that the financial lodges of the Zionists had merely used them on the battlefields. One can only guess that they saw the personified Satan in both the Freemason and the capitalistic lodges who had financed the war. Thus, the Second World War was already pre-programmed. For many years, people had worked on the illusion of ridding the world of a Satan and on the triumph over evil in a last battle, making way for the 1,000-year empire and the return of Christ.
The Tula Society naturally had a large number of prominent members in its ranks, also people who later became famous in National Socialism. Of course, Rudolf Hess is particularly well known to have been essentially working in the Fighter Alliance in the Tula Society. Hans Frank, later Minister for Justice in Bavaria and Minister without a portfolio in the Third Reich, was also one of them. Alfred Rosenberg, the so-called chief ideologist of the Nazi NSDAP, who later wrote The Myth of the 20th Century, was also a member of the Thule Society. We must not forget one man who did not live to see the Third Reich, but who had a striking and important influence on Hitler, the writer and poet Dietrich Eckart. Dietrich Eckart essentially became famous for his revised version of Peer Gynt, which was then performed. He was also known as a poet, author of some significant fighter songs of the Nazi NSDAP. This man strongly influenced Hitler. He clarified and gave direction to the confused ideas which Hitler already had in Vienna. Hitler and Eckart came together and often discussed different political questions. Eckart managed to direct Hitler's antagonistic opinions of Marxism and capitalism into a unified anti-Semitic view. Most importantly, Eckart provided Hitler with important connections within the society. He helped him to become courteous, well-mannered, and introduced him to the refined people who were able to help him financially.
Ihn bei den feineren Leuten eingeführt hat, ebenfalls Finanzen beigesteuert hat. Und Eckart war ein Mann, der
Eckart was obviously not a member of the Thule Society, but was in close contact with the leading figures of the society. One must imagine all this like a spectrum, in which individual association memberships were not so important, but where the people from the different organizations and parties repeatedly met, where there was overlapping in the membership, but where in a particular period, that is specifically in Munich at the beginning of 1919, crystallization centers increasingly emerged. One of them was definitely the Thule Society, and all the important people who met at the time essentially fought against Marxism, met at the Thule Society or in its sphere of influence. Out of the Thule Society emerged the idea, as Sabottendorf, the founder of the society, declared, that support for the national cause should also come from the working class, and not only from the middle classes and bourgeois circles. These ideas had also spread to others, as for example the engineer Paul Tafel, also a member of the Germanic Order. Sabottendorf appointed one of his associates, the sports journalist Karl Hara, to create a political working circle within the Thule Society. Hara did so, and happened to meet Alfred Drexler, with whom he worked closely. In January 1919, Hara and Drexler founded the German Workers' Party, which had its origin in Drexler's Free Workers' Community for Peace. One can say that the original building of the Nazi NSDAP was laid by the Thule Society. Hara was a Thule brother. Drexler was also moving in these circles. And the initial people of the DAP all came from the Thule Society circles.
Weil Hara war ein Thule-Bruder, Drexler verkehrte auch in dem Umfeld und die ersten Leute, die in der DAP Einfluss hatten, waren aus dem Umfeld der Thule-Gesellschaft.
The Thule organization secretly made great plans to release mankind from the financial conspiracy. To them, the Illuminati, Freemasons, and Zionistic financial connections represented a world dictatorship which had to be fought and defeated. However, it would still take a while until they found a political candidate who would represent them in power. Because of the deep Christian and occult nature of the Thule organization, which meant something like the Society for Research on Atlantis, its members searched in all ancient prophecies for when the Dark Age would come to an end. In his last days, Jesus revealed something about the days to come. These old secret prophecies revealed by Jesus to his apostles said that the beginning of salvation would spread from a country behind large mountains, where a great leader by the name of Elijah would be born. Jesus turned around while talking and pointed to the Roman legionnaire Longistus, who was a German mercenary. As a result, the German lodges believed that this secret gospel of John revealed that the land was Germany, the large mountains being the fortress of the Alps, and that the mentioned leader was already incarnated